You're listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, no, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope, the podcast. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today I'm here with Erica Carrico. Erica is an award-winning life purpose and business coach for women who are ready to transform their lives by creating profitable businesses while lucratively expressing their own soul purpose. Through coaching services and speaking, Erica helps people discover their life purpose, launch and scale their soulful business, ditch their 9-to-5s, and make fabulous money on their spiritual path so they can finally earn a living doing what they absolutely love. And what they do, I put here on earth to do. Like, I think that's so important, Erica, to live in your purpose, like, honestly. But Erica also has a bachelor's in psychology, a master's in business management, 12 plus years in international business leadership experience. She's built a $500,000 coaching business with 2 kids in tow while recovering from kidney cancer. Oh my goodness, Erica, when I ask you your story, I know it's going to be really powerful because you've lived 20 lives.
It's been wild.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I get super excited when certain guests come on, and I've been really excited to have you on the show and share. And one of the first things we ask you to do is share your story of hope. So I'm just going to let you just go for it and share with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely love the opportunity to share my story because I think that, it was a complete and total turning point in my life. And, obviously because of that, now I'm so passionate in helping people to do the same. So I was always that person who I didn't know necessarily what I wanted to do I didn't know what I wanted to do with my career. I kind of came out of college and just struggled a little bit. I always knew that I was here to make a difference in the world. And I always knew that I wanted to really love what I did as well. It never really appealed to me to end up in a corporate career working 9-to-5 just to pay the bills. And, ironically enough, that's exactly what happened to me. And, I came out of college, and a lot of my friends were getting married and they were starting to climb the corporate ladder. And I decided that I was just going to take off to Europe. And I went to Europe and spent 1 year backpacking around Europe. And I came back and really felt like I wasn't doing what I should be doing. There's all these societal expectations now and the pressure to get a job and to earn a living and to get the paycheck and to get the benefits and the retirement fund. And everyone was asking me, well, what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do with your life? You don't have a boyfriend, you don't have a job. And I felt really pressured. And so what I ended up doing was I jumped into corporate. I started out in corporate recruitment and climbed the corporate ladder for about 8 years. It was a really great job. I traveled all over the world with it. I moved down to Sydney, Australia, and was, earning really good money, entertaining clients, flying all around Singapore, Hong Kong, different places. And, from the outside looking in, I think everybody thought that I had quote unquote made it. And, I was living the life and I was living the dream. But I think what a lot of people didn't see is just how suffocated I was feeling and how, soul destroyed I was feeling, and almost like a prisoner in my own body. I was showing up every day and I was going to work and I was creating the success and I had the job and I had the income, and yet I was doing everything I could to make it through every day. So I was, coming home every night and I was having a glass or 2 of wine just to kind of try and numb myself out. And I was exercising, all the time, trying to just exercise the stress out of my body. I was overeating. I was binge eating. I was in and out of relationships with men constantly. And looking back, I see that I was trying to do everything that I could just to feel happy and to feel comfort and contentment and relief, and just, I was trying to be okay with my life, but I was like shoving myself in it was like a square peg shoving myself into a round hole, and it just wasn't working. And, I remember really feeling at one point like my soul was just dying. And it was when I turned 36. And, by this point, I'd been in corporate for about 10, 11 years. And I had dreams of starting my own business for years. I knew that I wanted to be a coach. And I just let everything talk me out of it, let everything talk me out of it. But here I was, 36, and miserable in my career, not happy in my marriage. I had a toddler and a baby who I was still breastfeeding. And yeah, my worst nightmare happened. I was diagnosed with kidney cancer. And, kind of faced that point in my life where I wasn't sure if I was going to live another 6 months or another year or another 5 years or 10 years. And, that's really when I like to say everything actually fell apart, in my life at that time. But looking back now from where I am, I see that it was actually the start of just everything falling back together.
I love that. I too went through a health issue, and which took me on a completely different career choice. And I thought too that my whole life had fallen apart. But looking back, I see now that it was all falling together, and that was a path I needed to be on to see where I needed to go. And I haven't looked back since that happened for me.
Right.
So when you're coaching now, like you're working with women who are high performers, I'm assuming,
Yep.
who are very busy. And when you're a high performer in business, I promise you, you're probably a high performer in everything you do, right? It's just like something we do. And how do you help them move on to the next level, or to stay focused, or to get in alignment with where they're going?
Well, I think first it's really important to, and I think health issues, and I see a lot of health issues, obviously, especially, women coming to me, they're burnt out, they're experiencing chronic fatigue, a lot of, the, what is the, not rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune diseases, and even cancer diagnosis. And I think what happens is, when we are living life out of alignment, and when we're not really allowing ourselves to be in full self-expression, and when we're just shoving our dreams inside, or we're constantly busy and we're living in chaos and just reacting, and we're not actually living intentionally, I think our body honestly can only take so much, and it starts to manifest in disease, right? So disease. And so what I really help women to do is, let's strip away a lot of why you're busy. Let's strip away a lot of the chaos. Let's really get to the core of who you are and remember who you are and why you're here. And when we can really tap back into our purpose, everything flows differently. So we show up differently in our career. We show up differently in our business. We show up differently as a mom, as a partner. Our whole life changes, I feel, when we just really align ourselves with who we are, and when we feel like we have a mission and a reason for being that's greater than just ourselves.
So also coming from an illness and moving into my new business, which is not new anymore, but I think that learning where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing, and really removing some of that chaos is part of the most important part of self-care. And so some people think that that's like getting more rest or eating better. Yeah, that is all self-care, but managing your mindset, like how you're going to finish the day, like what are you putting into that day, is a big part of self-care.
I completely agree. I used to think self-care and self-love was taking bubble baths
Yeah.
and getting a massage, twice a year, or allowing myself, half an hour to go to the gym, but it's actually not. It's taking care of yourself on a much deeper, soulful level, and allowing yourself to really live your life.
One of the things, I have a summit coming out, and we interviewed all these high performing men and women, and we would ask them, what are your routines? And every single one of them, their routines were all about self-care to get started, because you cannot perform at that level, like you said, without something breaking, something falling apart, and it's usually our health. So our relationships, right? Our relationships with our children, with our spouse, with our family. So yeah, I literally, like, there is a pattern here that I never even recognized, that these massive high performers are like, literally self-care is their number one thing.
Yeah, and it's learning how to put yourself first. And I think even as women, that's really hard and unnatural for us because we are designed biologically to nurture and to take care of others. And, it's actually seen in our society as a good thing to be selfless, right? We're taught to be selfless and we're taught to be of service. And especially I think when we're moms, we really do have a tendency to just put ourselves at the bottom of the totem pole.
Well, how much service were you when you were on your back because you were sick?
Right. And couldn't walk or even pick up a baby for 4 weeks because
That's what that's what I try to tell people, like, how much of service are you when you break? As a matter of fact, you're opposite of service because now people have to pitch in to pick up the slack. So for sure. And by the way, I'm sure your family doesn't mind picking up the slack when you break. That's what we're here for. But wouldn't it be better if we just didn't break at all? I want to talk to you about living in your purpose because I feel like, for instance, I was an interior designer. I thought that all my life, I loved design. I loved textures. I was very good at it. Didn't realize how much I hated it until I moved into what my real passion was. How do you help women discover that? Like that path? Like I thought that that was my passion. That's what I went to school for. That's what I'd spent years doing. And when I literally realized what that was and moved into what my real purpose and passion was, it was like, oh, I can't even describe it. Every day is like joyful for me.
Yeah, it's a completely different feeling. And, at the time, maybe being a designer was your purpose because that's at the level that you knew yourself, right? You knew yourself at that level at the time. But as we change and grow and evolve as human beings, I like to say how we choose to express ourselves out into the world and how we choose to live our purpose also changes as well, right? So it's kind of like, how I like to think of purpose is there are two parts of the definition. So the first is the essence, and the second is the expression. And the essence is who we are at soul level, right? Like who we were when we were born, and the patterns and the themes and the characteristics are what we carry through our entire lives, and they transition with us when we leave this earth. The expression part is how we choose to express the essence of who we are out into the world. And people always think, well, I got to find my purpose. What is it? It's this one thing. And it's actually not. It's you really finding, a combination of what you really love to do with what your natural divine gifts are, and how can you create those as a combination to then create value in the world. And so we get to choose based on the level that we know ourselves, right? So now as a 40-year-old woman, I know myself a lot differently, and I choose to express the essence of who I am out into the world now by coaching, by speaking, by writing, by helping others to awaken to their divine gifts and build businesses around it. Yeah.
I like that. I really do, because you're right. That is who I was at the time. And I remember being so excited when I got my first job, right? My first design job. And then after a while, it loses a little of its luster and it just becomes like, this isn't my zone anymore. And I guess it's okay, because you outgrow sometimes the space that you thought you were supposed to be in. Like, I'm sure you were very grateful for your corporate job when you first got it, and then you outgrew it.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of like onions, as we move through life, we're peeling off these layers of ourselves, and we're starting to untangle all of the things that we've built our life based upon what we felt it should be. And we're starting to get down to the core of who we are, and how we then want to express ourselves out into the world. What we want to do changes, it evolves as well.
So when you work with women, do you talk to them about how to recognize what that is and start moving towards it?
Yeah. So my core program, or my signature program, is called Awaken Your Purpose. And so what we do is, I find that it's really important there's a lot of healing that needs to happen before we can just figure out what it is that we want to do. How do we want to express this? What business do I want to start? Or how do I want to align my current business with my purpose, right? There's a lot of healing that needs to happen. So what I do is I really help people to get rid of a lot of the negative self-talk that's happening, clear the chaos, give themselves just some space and some time to just breathe and hear what's meant to be coming through. So there's a lot of healing that happens first. And from that point, it's a lot easier to then really be able to tap into the essence of who we are. And so the first part of the program is really designed to remember who you are at soul level. What are your divine gifts? What are you naturally good at? What do you actually love to do? So many women our age, they don't even have any idea what they love to do anymore. And then the second part of the program is, okay, now that I'm in this clear headspace, my vibration is a little bit higher, I'm thinking clearly, then it's easier to make a decision about how to align your business with your purpose, right? How to market your business differently, potentially, how to add different revenue streams, or even how to figure out what business to start. So you're in a very different space once you've done a lot of this healing work and you're coming from more of a soul aligned place. Then if you try and make these decisions without knowing yourself, you're just going to continue piling on the mud and the muck, right? Rather than stripping it away.
Well, I've never heard someone correlate healing to moving forward with your business. But I will tell you, like when I was looking for my purpose, it wasn't until I was so sick and broken that I opened that door for healing. Otherwise, it would never have happened for me. I would still be interior designing, rushing, miserable at the end of every day, never feel like I was hitting perfection. Because, by the way, people expect perfection from you in interior design, and there's no such word. I learned that now, like, hey, there is no such place. So it's just a little road trip we can take, but we're not going to ever get there.
No, it's so true. It's definitely an illusion.
Thank God, right?
Right.
And then what are you going to do when you get there? There's nowhere else to go. So like, I'm at perfection. There's nowhere to go from here.
That's so true. I've never thought of it like that.
But I definitely had to be totally broken before I could allow myself to hear what was out there, what the universe was telling me, and to move into it. And so I know there's a lot of women who are probably listening right now, because let's face it, 2020 has been a year, and I hate this term because I've heard it so much, but it's been a pivot year. It's been a year where we've had to restructure, rethink, revamp who we are, what our message is, or at the very center of it, really dig down and figure it out. And so we're becoming more aware of these things and reaching out to incredible experts like yourself for that help and putting it all together. Like, I know that there's a broken piece or a piece that I can't quite put my finger on, and I feel something massive is coming. I don't know how to get there. Because when I first got sick, I felt there was this massive thing coming. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew something big was coming. This was happening for a reason. And I didn't have you. I wish I did. So it took me probably a little bit longer to get there. But I think it's great when you have someone who recognizes that and helps you understand, interpret, and move through that. So what kind of women do you work with?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful, I think honestly, a health concern, a health issue, whatever it is, no matter how big or small or life-threatening or not, it's actually a wake-up call. I really truly believe that. And after working with, probably nearly 1,000 women at this point to really figure out, who they are and why they're here, so many of them have had a wake-up call through a health issue. And I think it's, even COVID and the whole, like you said, the pandemic, such a beautiful point, and really putting so many people on their knees and forcing them to pivot and make this change. You can edit, right?
No, it's okay. We don't edit, but we're good. We're good. Everything you said was genius. I loved it.
Right.
You were telling us, so what type of women come to you for help and to move forward? Like, what kind of women are coming and looking for your services?
Yeah. So anyone, honestly, right now who has they're at a point in their life, whatever it is, has woken them up, and they realize now, I can't continue living life the way that I was living before, whether it's pre-pandemic, whether it's pre-diagnosis, right? So I've worked with stay-at-home moms, I've worked with college kids, I've worked with moms who are in their 60s and their kids are, their kids have left now and they've retired and they're like, what is this next chapter of my life? Anyone who is just feeling that call that they're here for something more, like you said, that the next big thing is there. They just don't know what that is. They're lost, they're searching, and they just need some guidance around the process to take and the questions to ask themselves and the work to do.
So I just want to make really clear and make sure that I'm understanding with you, but sometimes living your life purpose doesn't even connect to a business, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So sometimes like you living your life purpose doesn't mean building an empire as an entrepreneur. Sometimes you understanding and saying, this is my joy spot, right? This is my purpose. It doesn't have to be attached to an entrepreneurship or building a business. To me, when I was raising my kids, that was my purpose. And I felt it. I loved it. And every moment I enjoyed it. But then as they got bigger, my purpose changed because they didn't need me as much, right? And I
Right.
moved into something else and then something else. So if they're not even just looking to build a business and they're looking to like, what is my purpose? I want to live in my true joy and understand what that is. Are you their coach?
Yeah, 100%. So that goes back to that expression and that essence piece, right? So how you're expressing your purpose changes throughout your life. So when you, like you said, at one point in time, you were really expressing your purpose through being a mom. We can express our purpose through how we volunteer, through how we spend our free time, through, through how we do build a business, but our purpose is expressed through relationships, all different areas of our life. A career or business is really just one way we choose to express our purpose.
I love that. And I do still have women tell me, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. Just a stay-at-home mom? You're a cab driver, a nurse, a teacher, a referee, like you are
24-hour worker.
amazing. Yes, you're amazing. That's the best job in the world and totally underpaid.
Totally underpaid. Yeah, there is no time off ever.
And I have women tell me that all the time. Oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. Like, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you have those kind of programs. Like, so let's give the women out here who are listening that want to know, like, what does that even mean, having a purpose? What are like 3 things that they can do right now to start realizing, like, you may not know that what that means to have a purpose, but I know that if there's something bubbling inside of you and you're just not sure what that is, if it's maybe I want to write a book, I have a story I want to share, or I, want to create some kind of fundraiser to start giving back, and it's just bubbling inside of you. There's a purpose there. And a lot of us don't know how to tap into that, how to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3 questions you can ask yourself, and this is sort of a really good starting point. The first is, what do I really love to do? And it sounds really simple, but I promise you, if you sit down with a pen and paper and you start writing what you really love to do, you're going to get stuck at 4 or 5 things. And I always say, if you can get to 30, now we're talking. I want you to get to a list of 30 things that you love to do. And it doesn't have to necessarily be an activity. It's what fills you with joy. And, sometimes if you need a little bit of help, go back to when you were a child. What were you doing as a child? Did you love to create and play? Or were you outside getting lost running in the forest? Or did you just absolutely love animals and have a huge connection with animals? Go back to when you were little and just remember what things you did when you were little. And that's a really good insight into things that you really love and what fills you with joy, what lights you up, what fuels you, because our purpose is always, always, always aligned with something that we absolutely love, and or a combination of them, right? So that's the first thing. The second question to ask yourself is, what am I naturally good at? What are my divine gifts? And this one I think is even harder for us to figure out, because also, again, as women, we are taught to blend in and to not stand out and to not brag about ourselves, right? And so a lot of times we don't even realize our divine gifts or what we're good at are unique. We think that they're just easy for us or they come naturally for us, so everybody must have them. So I always say, go and ask a few people in your life. Ask your parents or your mom or your dad or your partner, ask your kids, ask your spouse, someone, a best friend, whoever is close to you. What do you think I'm really good at? When you think of me, what are my strengths? What are my skills? What am I really good at? And the third thing is, our purpose is always aligned with 1, what we really love to do, 2, what we're naturally good at, and 3, the third question, how can I combine those 2 things? So how can I combine what I love to do with what I'm naturally good at, and then create value in the world?
So that is genius. And I suggest everyone write those out and then reach out to Erica and say, I have my list. I've got this excitement. How do I pull that all together? Because if I'm writing a book, I'm definitely not going out and publishing and editing it all myself. As a matter of fact, my gift isn't writing, my gift is talking. So I found that if I just verbally put it into like Zoom, and then I have it transcribed, I have the basis of my first chapter, then my second chapter, right? And then I just go perfect it, because writing it wasn't easy for me, but verbally speaking it was so much better. So maybe she'll be able to help you figure out some of these ways to start bringing your purpose out and letting you live in your space of joy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you've just done it there, right? So you've just seen, I want to write this book. I want to have this book. I want to put this beautiful work out into the world, but yet writing isn't one of my natural skills. So you found a way to make that work for you, which is brilliant.
Yeah, definitely a talker.
Hence the podcast.
Yes. Yes. So how can people reach you?
So they can find me. I'm guessing you'll probably put them in the show notes, but my website is ericacarrico.com. There's a bunch of free resources on there. There's a 7-step guide to finding your purpose. And then I'm on Instagram as well, sharing a lot of behind the scenes things happening in my own life. And there are a bunch of free videos actually on YouTube too, around tapping into your life purpose and building a business from there.
I think you're amazing. And I don't want anyone to be wasting time not living in your purpose. And it could be different, right? It could be changed. Mine changed, yours changed. So your purpose can be changing, and change is good, right? Nobody wants to be stuck in the same old, same old. So change is good. So if you guys want to connect with her, we'll have everything in the show notes. I highly recommend you go check her out. Follow her on social media and reach out to her and start living in your joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.